Yo, welcome to the Table Talk podcast, where we sit down, pull up a chair, and we get started. This podcast is designed to provide you packed full of information to help you with your training, nutrition, lifestyle, and well-being, where we interview myself through case studies to give you lifetime experience. And then we also interview high-performing individuals or other career-focused people who are looking to make changes in their lifestyle, training, nutrition, and well-being. So let's pull up that chair and let's go. Yo, welcome to the Table Talk. We are here with Josie.
Hi.
And it's going to be a bit weird because we're going to look at the camera for a second and then we're literally just going to look at each other for most of the time. So this is our first live recording, and this stumbled on 6 months. When did you finish your sabbatical?
So yeah, it's been a few months. It's been a few months. Yeah.
Yeah. So we literally bumped into each other on the street, and I was like, "Hey, how have you been?" And we sat down, talked about what Josie's journey's been, and I used to coach Josie and learn about dance. I didn't dance, probably Josie would say yet. Still times. And so, yeah, we talked about how did she win her comps? How did she get to where she was?
Dance competitions.
Yeah. And we're here today in person because, one, I like to cook and I'm going to get my chef on after this. So we're going to have delicious dinner. Okay, myself and Josie, but also to really just tell, for those that are curious about Josie, but also the winning mindset, what goes behind it, then running a business to lead to transitioning out and taking the time off, finding self and coming back a new person.
Yeah, lots of things have happened.
And so we've done a few mic checks. We've now worked it out.
Mm-hmm.
So Josie and I are 50-50 in getting it ready and live. So let's dive in and let's have some fun. So Josie, how have you been?
Hello. Hi, whoever's watching. I've been good.
Yep.
So it's a whole new life for me right now after years of owning a business.
And through COVID. So
and owning a dance business where you're teaching people how to touch each other while, oh no, that sounded so bad. Guys, it's Latin dancing, okay? You have to touch hands.
Latin dancing.
Yes. Oh dear. So yeah, no.
And that's the podcast.
So basically when your whole business relies on people dancing together, and then COVID happens and people can't touch each other, let alone be in the same room barely. It was a really challenging time, but we made it through. And it's been a long journey for me. I've been in Australia for almost 18 years now. And just to give you a little bit of background, I've been dancing since I was 4 years old.
Oh, sorry. Can you tell us your story, Jen?
Sure. I've been dancing since I was a little kid, a wee ladette. And so I started with, I did classical ballet for many years, did it full time as well. Then when I was a teenager, when I was 18, I discovered salsa and Latin dancing, and I completely fell in love.
Was that also competition as well, or just the salsa itself?
So it's just, social dancing but also dancing in choreographies and stuff like that with teams and this and that. And I just completely fell in love with Latin dancing and salsa in particular, and realized that a lot of people actually make careers out of it. And I knew that I didn't want to become a professional ballet dancer, and I had, let go of that. But then when I stopped dancing for just a little bit when I was younger, and then I discovered Latin dancing and salsa, and I thought, wow, I just loved it from day dot. I just felt like my soul was like alive.
Yeah.
And then when around the age of around 20 years old, I thought my dream became to have my own dance studio and to start starting my own business to have my own dance studio. And I always thought that it was going to happen in my home city of Montreal, where I was born and raised and had at that point lived my entire life. But then a need for traveling and a little bit of a need for change brought me randomly to Australia on a working holiday visa. And then I've been here ever since.
Ever since, yeah.
I've been here ever since, and I've only gone back home to visit. I've never
to return.
I didn't consider going back to live there.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was it like, just to go back to salsa? Was it, I guess, because the reason for my question, how I thinking, is because when you built your like new studio, it was meticulous in the way, the experience, like, you thought about the customer, how they would enter. And when you entered the salsa space for the first time, was it the same for you? And you're like the music, you saw the people, or was it when you were doing it, that's when you were like, oh, this is it?
Oh, when I was doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The dancing, the music, it's just so it's such a beautiful culture, and it's so alive, and it's very addictive, which is great because you can start salsa at any age and have the time of your life. Literally, it's just so much fun.
Yeah.
It's for everyone.
And then what about competitions? How does that, because you've worked with a lot of dancers over the years.
Yeah, there's a lot of different aspects to Latin dancing. So you have the social dancing aspect, which is the foundation of Latin dancing. Salsa is not, it's a street dance. It's not like, ballroom or those are a competition dance. Salsa at its core is a culture, it's a social dance. It's, families getting together, it's friends getting together, stuff like that. So obviously it's evolved a lot through the years. But at its core, it's social dancing, which is super fun because you can go out any night of the week and dance salsa anywhere and have a great time. I've traveled a lot of countries teaching as well. And even when you don't speak the same language, you can dance with anyone. You could be going to literally the most random parts of, different random countries and find a salsa club or something like that.
As you do, as we know.
So it's super fun. But then also there's the aspect of performance. So you can putting together choreographies, performing, entertainment, and then I guess the bit more removed from the cultural aspect of salsa is the competition aspect, whereas it's kind of gone to another level where we can compete in salsa and other Latin dances as well. And it's super fun too. I'm quite a competitive person when it comes to competitions. And I love it. I just adore it gives you such a goal and something to strive for. And you can compete solo, you can compete as a couple, you can compete as a team.
So you do all three, of course.
Well, actually, I've performed as solo, but I've never competed as solo. But I have competed in one as a couple, and I've a lot as a team as well. And I've trained a lot of teams as well, which have been successful. So it's really good fun.
And so you've never competed individually
as a solo performer? No.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So
it just wasn't. Yeah, it's a
choreography. One person.
I've choreographed
teams,
a lot.
Much harder. Of course. Yeah.
I've choreographed and coached a lot of people to do solos, and that was really fun. And but I've never actually competed solo myself. Yes.
Still time. Yes.
Watch out. Okay, I might be retired, but
if you're listening, so fell in love with salsa, then
came to Australia.
So, and at 20, you're running your own business?
Well, it took. So I came to Australia originally. I was only supposed to be here for 1 year. And so my goal, and literally I was writing on the plane.
I will peak this year 18 times.
No, not at all. No, my goal was to go back home and start my own dance studio.
Yeah.
That was like I had this really pretty notebook that I was given, by a friend as a gift before going on my big trip to Australia. And I was writing on the plane. I was like, journaling. When I'm coming back to Montreal, I'm going to start my own dance studio. And, I had all these ideas and plans, and it just ended up happening here instead. But it didn't happen straight away. It took from the time that I arrived, took about 5 years because, I came here and I was still quite young and just kind of starting off. And then I arrived and it was like, oh, people like, oh, she can dance, so would you like to be part of my team? Would you like to be part of, so I started working. So I started dancing with teams, started making a name for myself, found a dance partner, trained with them, and started putting choreos together, and I started teaching here as well. And that's how the journey started. But I knew I had a goal. I didn't know that it was going to happen here, but every step that I took was towards that goal. The goal was, I want to become a professional salsa dancer, and I want to own my own dance studio.
So you're building on that brand of your name and this dance in itself.
I didn't know how it was going to happen. I didn't have all the answers.
It was going to happen.
But I was just, every little step was going in that direction. And I think that's applicable to so many different things in life. You don't always know. I never thought it was going to happen here in Sydney, Australia. I had no idea. I thought it was going to happen back home, but I'm super grateful that it happened here, and I'm very happy here. So you never know.
And those listening, Josie and I, when we met, we talked about, you'd always talk about Joe Dispenza. We were big believers in practice what you preach, but also like things happen for a reason.
Yes.
Were you already kind of, like, it sounds like you were already kind of doing that, but did you know of him already? Or?
So when I first arrived here, I didn't know of Joe Dispenza. I only discovered him. I was already very much into personal growth and self-help and stuff like that. It was at the time, because that was many years ago, I was very much into like Tony Robbins and, Wayne Dyer and stuff like that, which, obviously are great teachers. And then I discovered Joe Dispenza, I'd say probably 2018, 2019. And that really it helped me take my journey to another level as well. But there's so many things that happened in my life where I really needed that support of those amazing teachings to help me just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And because there's so many challenges just in general in life, and also when you start and own your own business, was really useful to evolve my mindset and my thinking beyond what I had been taught as a child, or what I had learned from, different people around me. Yeah.
Cool. So you're already practicing those teachings, journaling, you're going to be that amazing dancer, and you're going to have that practice.
Business.
Business. Just
Studio.
Dance Revolution. You're building a name. Everyone's like, "Ooh, she can dance." But were you competing then, or?
Yes, I started competing shortly after I arrived in Australia.
Yeah. And how, was it? Because as you said,
and my first competition, I came nearly last.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. How?
That was a big learning experience.
Yeah, wow. Pandora's box was about to say, because salsa is a community of people who social, and you're like, nah, lost the one. Okay.
That was devastating. I was such a salsa baby. We call them salsa baby. I was in the beginning of my dance journey. I had only trained, I had to compete in the professional division because my dance partner at the time was a teacher, but we were not professional dancers. We were salsa babies. But that's okay. It was a great learning experience. And then the year after, I came second, and then the year after I won. So it was a learning experience. I think that you got to give it the time. You've got to respect your process, and you've got to be consistent, disciplined, put in the effort, and you'll get there.
Yeah. So even your teacher was a baby in the industry as well.
My
dance partner.
Yes.
So he was a teacher as well?
Was teaching. He was giving dance classes to level 1 and level 2 salsa beginners. Yeah, so we were not professional dancers per se, but we had to compete in the professional division because he was teaching dance classes. So when you're teaching, you're considered a professional.
Yeah.
It's just the way that the competitions here in Australia work. Yeah.
No, just Australia.
It's just a little, not just Australia.
Australia.
No, that's not true. Australia has done amazing things on the world stage.
And only performance, not solo, because that's your.
That's no, it's solos too.
But what would be the difference between, because you said almost last, second next year, and then first 3 years later, but at the beginning it was, oh, she can dance.
Yeah.
What could you describe what that difference is? Like, is that a huge difference from like she can dance
In
versus
terms of
winning?
Yeah,
And the style, you said.
absolutely. 100%. There's a big difference between she can dance or he can dance, and to actually
Everybody look at your
become
pants.
and to actually become Australian champion.
Yeah.
Like that takes a lot of discipline, work, and perseverance for sure. Takes experience. It's impossible to like. It's really interesting because when I was dancing salsa for 5 years, I was like, oh, I'm getting really good now, and it's great, and I'm really enjoying it. And then, when I got to 10 years, I was like, oh my God, I thought I knew what I was doing when it was 5 years, but no, I'm so much better now. And then, you have the same feeling when it's been 15 years. And now for me, it's been 20 years. And I look back and I thought, gosh, you think you know everything when you've been doing something for 4, 5, X amount of years. But then when you've been in it for a really long time and you've given it so much time and effort and discipline and perseverance, you realize, wow, it's a never ending growth, which is what's amazing.
Exciting. Yeah.
It's very exciting. This is why I love dancing, because you're never finished. You can never finish all the levels, which is great.
And let's talk about year 1 Josie versus losing Josie versus winning Josie. As you said, it's discipline and a lot that goes into it. What would the routine, like, was it dancing 4 hours a day, or because training, you train 4 or 5 times a week, you eat your 4 meals a day, you eat your macros and proteins, but with dance, I imagine there's skills as well. So what does that discipline look like?
Look, it can vary so much from person to person because, again, salsa is a street dance. It's not as structured as, when you go into, say, ballroom dancing, there's literally books of rules, and it's very, very, very structured. Whereas because it's a different kind of culture, it really varies from person to person. Me personally, I was probably dancing, I mean, at the time I was young, I had so much energy. I was probably dancing 6, 7 days a week, plus the teaching. So I was all in. I was loving it, probably dancing almost every day. And then social dancing on top of that. Yeah. So you're teaching social dancing, then you're training with your team. Maybe you're training, 4 days a week, sometimes more. Then you're training with your partner. You're like, it varies a lot, but definitely a couple of hours a day. Couple of hours every day.
And your definition of a couple of hours? 2, 3, 4, 5?
So just the actual training, just maybe 2 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what does a structured training look like?
Oh my God, you're bringing me back. I'm retired now.
You can still dance.
This is memory lane for me. I can still dance. Definitely. Yes. It's like a bicycle. You don't really lose it. Yeah. This is why I go to the gym now, so I can stay in shape, so I can still go dancing.
Socially and yeah. So what does that look like? Because
it really depends on what you're working on. But when you're building a choreography, you've got to obviously work on details. You've got to work on techniques. So sometimes you'll work slowly with no music, just working to the counts. And then other times you have to work with music, slowly, sometimes fast. I used to also make my they used to love that. I would make my dancers dance to the music, and I would put it actually faster than what they would be competing or performing, because so let's say the full speed of the music is 100%. I would make them train at 105%. Because then I knew
you've got to give more
because you've got to give
time.
more,
yeah.
And then I can do 105, and 100 will be a piece of cake. So it's one of the little tricks I had.
Yes,
I would make them do run throughs. So run through to music. Then I would put a timer for a minute, and then when the alarm rings, you go again. And I would make them do that like 5, 6 times in a row. So it was real HIIT workout. So yeah, it's a few different little tricks here and there that I would use to create a winning team.
And well, so it's just, what is it? It's subtle. It's subtle differences that made that difference.
There's a lot of little tricks and things that you can do when you're training for a dance choreography. Yeah.
And from your first win, how you won, what was that like? And then what happened from there? Did you start journaling how you were going to win everything moving forward, or?
Gosh, that was so many years ago.
I guess probably, were you doing that 105% and like timing already to yourself? Is that something
that's something I implemented a little bit later. But no, I think it was just a big journey for me of just wanting to get better, wanting to just reach new heights. I started traveling for teaching. That was super fun. So it was I was really engulfed by the whole entire experience of, teaching and traveling and competing and training. I just loved the whole thing. And then eventually starting my own dance studio, which was that was one of the biggest challenge I've ever encountered in my life. That was tough. Yeah. Starting a new business from scratch.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, that was a big challenge.
And so you've gone from winning a few competitions to then, as you were winning these competitions, because that was a few years in, and when it was at 5 years, you then opened the business.
Mm-hmm.
Was it, when you first fell in love with the salsa you were doing, you're like, oh, this is great. Mm-hmm. What was it like for you when you were like, I'm doing the business?
Rude awakening.
Oh, wow.
Oh, it was tough.
It wasn't chicken business.
Look, you never know what it's going to be like, because you're outside of your comfort zone by definition. You don't know, if you've never done it before. I had never started a business before. I was still in my mid-20s around that time, so in mid to late 20s when I started my business. So I didn't I knew I wanted this. I was very knowledgeable in the teaching and dancing aspect of things, but I was not super, I had never run a business before. I had helped manage dance studios, but it's a whole nother ballgame when it's your own business and you're, making a lot of decisions, and then you have to figure out, okay, how am I going to pay rent this month? Because I'm in a startup and things really started from zero, and so, it was really tough. It was a lot of learning. It was one of the hardest times, aside from my divorce, which is another challenge in my life. I think it was the second hardest thing I've ever done, is to start a business from scratch. Yeah. It was because, we were chatting about Tony Robbins before we started recording, and you were talking about the 6 human needs.
Yep.
And certainty is one of them, and security, I believe, is another one of them.
Yeah, significance.
So anyways, for me, security and certainty is very important, and you don't have that when you start your own business. So I was super
uncertainty all the way. Yeah.
It's uncertainty all the way, and insecurity, because you don't know, you launch yourself and you're hoping that your wings will keep you flying. So it was very hard for me. I went through a really, really tough time. Fortunately, I started my business with a business partner that was my husband at the time. So together we were able to make that work. And we both had, really good skills. And the thing with me is that I'm perseverant AF. I'm perseverant, and I'm a hard worker, so even if I'm not good at something, I'm like, okay, I'm going to get it, and I'm going to get better at it. And there were things in my business and it's really interesting when you run your own business. There's so many things to do, from marketing to IT to operations, admin to finance and accounting and people. Yeah, that's a tough one. It's a challenging one, and I don't mean it in a derogatory way at all. I love the people that I worked with, but managing people is a challenging experience. Because everyone has their own agendas, or not just agendas. I don't mean that in a bad way, but everyone has their own perspective and their own goals. And so you've got to try to marry that with the needs of the business. And so it's quite challenging. So you have to be a jack of all trades. And there's always things that I was much better at. And things that I struggled more at. And then fortunately for me, my business partner was really good at the things that I wasn't that great at. And so we had very complementary skills, is what I'm trying to say. So it worked, and fortunately the wings worked and we were successful.
Took it off.
Yeah.
How so 5 years, you've won a few more comps, started the business.
Yeah.
When did you feel, so 5 years, when did you feel business has taken off? When did it start to be like, yes, we've done it?
Oh, that's a really good question.
And the second question to tie in for you, because you were competing still, taking home the competitions, getting more students.
Yes.
So like you've been building this Josie Cote brand. Everyone's like, wow, I've got to work with Josie, building bigger teams. I remember when we first started working together, I remember seeing like probably 3 photos of games, or there's a photo of you in the teams that you're performing. I remember by the end of it, I think you sold the businesses that I think there were 12, 13 teams you're working with.
Yeah.
And it's like really that's 12x. Like how's there? Why do 10x when you can do more? 100%. How are you managing those hats? Like, you have complementary, but once like the business gets bigger, it doesn't mean the challenges get smaller. They also get bigger.
No.
So as you were the Josie brand and awareness was getting bigger and you're getting more, also so did the business. When did you feel probably you're like, okay, it's good, we've made it. Then how did you manage those other two?
So I think we were very fortunate. I mean, it's not luck, it's obviously a lot of hard work and perseverance, but
what is it? It's purpose and vision.
Sorry.
We've got
a vision board.
Yeah, that's our vision board. So it's like
Nice.
Purpose and driven will, and purpose and volume will outbeat any day.
Yeah. So it took, I'd say, a couple of years. I think after 2 years, we were like, wow, this is awesome. We started having really big classes. But like anything, it can always be up and down and whatnot. What we didn't know is that eventually COVID was going to happen, and that was a whole, different ballgame. But no, I think after a couple of years, it was like, wow. Well, it was a slow growth in the beginning, and then eventually just went boom. And just showing that it takes time, and even if you don't see the results in the first 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, you keep going. You have to keep going, because eventually you'll hit that point where the snowball will start growing and growing and growing, and then it's exponential. So we also did win a Telstra Business Award in the, we didn't win the award, but we were a finalist in like a top 5 in the startup category. I think that was after 2 years, which was a really nice kind of pat on the back for us to go, wow, you're actually doing something really, really good. You're not just recognized by your own industry, but you're recognized outside of your industry by the Telstra Business Awards, which was really fantastic. So that was pretty cool. And then it was just keep on putting the hard work and keep on doing the hard work and keep pushing. Keep growing.
You're like, I'm not stopping.
Yeah. And then to answer your second question, yes, of course, there's always going to be a challenge. One thing that I noticed as a business owner is that just when you think that you can go, oh, great, we've gone through that. We've gone through this big event or that big thing that we had been working towards. you think that you can chill for a bit, but no, actually something else comes up. And so it was pretty much
Now there's 2 events.
never ending. Yeah. Yeah. So you don't get, I mean, especially, I think every business is different, obviously, but I was in a business where I offered a service and I was the service. I'm the teacher, I'm the face, I'm the, so people want to come to learn from me a lot of the times. Not always, obviously, with the beginners, they didn't care who I was, which is great. But it was really interesting because for a while I was trying to kind of remove myself from teaching so much and doing so much and whatnot. Yeah. And I was actually quite interested in the business aspect of things. But I couldn't remove myself too much from the dancing because people were like, no, Josie, we want to learn from you, so that was a specific challenge to my business and my industry for sure.
Did you ever overcome it, or you're like,
never fully? No, this is why I retired. That's why I retired. I would have, towards the end, there's a part of me that was fantasizing about just working on my business and just doing like the operations and the this and that, and not having to teach, not having to dance. And I just knew that it wouldn't, like, it wasn't realistic. Look, anything is possible. I could have done it. I could have gone, screw y'all, but it's not realistic in the business that I'm in. And as a person that's offering the service, you bring a lot of money into the business. So yeah, that would have.
Why would you give up?
So that's why I was like, well, I'm just going to retire. And now I'm just dancing once in a blue moon for fun. And that's it.
False sense of security for competition out there. Yeah. They're like,
watch out.
Yeah, I can win. Yeah.
No.
How big did it get for you? Was the peak? Because I recall just before COVID, you were looking to expand the space.
Yes. So we had hit capacity in our studio for a few years, and we were looking. We were located on Oxford Street in Darlinghurst.
What is capacity? Is that like 100, 200 people?
Well, we had a small-ish studio at the time. It was around 250 square meters. So we've hit capacity. That was, we had 2 studio spaces in that studio, one space that was slightly bigger, one space that was slightly smaller. So we could run 2 classes at the same time. And then I think at the parties, we packed the place, like, when there was 150 people in the place, it was
300.
You knew that you'd be sweating a lot when you're dancing, which we did.
Sauna dance.
Yeah. It's so much fun. So we were looking for a place to move, and it was really challenging to find the kind of space that we needed for what we do, because we need a big open space, no columns, this and this and that, and that's not easy to find in Sydney, especially in that Darlinghurst area. It's older buildings, and so, anyways, to make a long story short, we actually found our new studio, which was I can't remember exactly what the square meterage was, but it was pretty much like, it was more than double what we had.
Yeah. It came with a vault too.
It came with a vault because it was a bank many years before.
Mm-hmm. She says that, but really they just wanted to have a vault dance studio. And if you were naughty, this is another strategy. Lock them in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Cut the oxygen.
Of course.
2 minutes, you got to oxygenate. Yeah. New training methods.
Sure. Didn't quite work that way, but in Carl's fantasy, it did.
That's why she retired. Yeah. What got on? Yeah.
Yes, and we found that place literally in between the 2 COVID lockdowns that we had in Sydney. Because the first lockdown happened and we were in our Oxford Street studio, and then we reopened and the capacity was like something like 1 person for every 4 square meters. And then after that, it was 1 person for every 2 square meters. Basically, it was, it was really hard for us to really run it. So we were like, okay, we really need to move now.
Did you have like the stickers of like, okay, everyone, you have to dance there?
We had stickers on the floors.
I remember in the gym, there's stickers, and it's like, you can only have the bench here. And it's like, hey, don't
Yeah, it was really tough times, really tough times. And then for a while, we couldn't do partner dancing. We had to do just dancing by ourselves. So it was a really challenging years, but we were determined to make it through. And we took all of the government help that we could get. And we survived and we moved to a bigger studio. And then 5 months later, another lockdown happened. That was so much fun.
Yeah.
So we're like brand new studio, literally built it from scratch. It was an empty space. We literally made the plans ourselves. And I was like, I want this studio to be that size. And then that's going to be the other studio. So we had 4 studio spaces in that new studio. Plus the vault. Yep. And we had, we weren't even, because when you're building something, the studio was being built. We did an opening and everything, but there was still works going on in the background and this and that. So by the time the second lockdown came, we weren't even fully finished with building the studio because we were still adding more toilets and stuff like that. So yeah, that second lockdown was really, really rough when you have just taken on board a brand new 5-year lease on a brand new big studio. And then you have to stop trading. And then that second lockdown, especially, if I remember correctly, it was this, it's just going to be 1 week. Oh, cool. Oh, just 2 weeks now. Okay, 2 weeks. All right. Okay. 3 weeks, 4 weeks. So it just kept adding. So I think we were closed down for 6 weeks and there was still no help from the government. There was nothing kind of put forward out there to help businesses survive. And we were like, what the hell? We just put all of our savings into building this new studio. We don't have money no more. Now's the time to rebuild and we can't open our doors. So it was tough. 7 months of what? Was that the second one was for 7 months? The second lockdown? Yeah. Oh, it was only just 13 weeks and 2 days, but who's counting? No, we were counting the days. No, it was the second lockdown was around just over 3 months. Yeah. How did you manage? From June 25, not that 11:59. Yeah, literally, I remember all the dates because it was such a traumatic time for me. So yes, from the end of June to the beginning of October, 2021. So you've gone from managing big teams to teaching to a computer. Yeah. With no one, like we had this massive studios with nobody in them. It was eerie. Yeah. It was weird. So we did a computer setup as we did in the first lockdown, and we're teaching to our members and our students via the computer. Yeah. Oh, so many questions. Because like you've gone from, was it like, we haven't said, but you kind of won when we talked, when we caught up, you won like 16 comps over these years. Counting. Yeah, but I don't know. Lost count after 16. Though you've gone from she can dance to now 3 years professional, then building that name and that brand, and then taking on more students and then teaching them to perform and then winning competitions. So yeah, like it's your own personal self that's growing, and then your students as well, and that's growing. And yeah, I know, like, as the coach, when you start to become more, not like intimate, but more, you are becoming intimate with these people, and they are trusting you, and you're getting the results, which is amazing, and they then trust you more. What was that like when COVID hit? Because you probably would have been like, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? 100%. It's now all on you, and you're like, you can't, like, in one breath, you're like, I have no idea, but at the same time, there has to be the facade, like 100%. Like, yeah, what was everything's fine, and we're gonna get through this. And yeah, like I remember, like for me, I know the first month I was like, putting the face on, like, do this, and I remember, like, I was going for a walk with Kate. I'm like, what was it? She's like, you sucked for the first month. I hated you so much. Because, like, I wasn't cooking, I wasn't doing anything. Yeah. I was just, like, I was gaming, but I was also then putting on the face. Yeah. But then after the first month, when we started to talk more and really dive in, it's like, yeah, cool, we're not coming out of this. So it's like, it's time to, like, buckle down. Yes. Get it done. Yes. Yeah. There's definitely something about uncertainty You know, we were talking about uncertainty.
Kicking the nuts.
Yeah. There's something about uncertainty when you don't know, like you're the beginning of the lockdown, you're like, okay, what's going to happen? Are we going to come out? And everybody keeps talking about, oh, it's just one more week. Or just, so there's that uncertainty. You're like, I don't know. What do I do? You know? And then when like when you have that final resolve of, okay, we're in this, we don't know how long it's going to last, but it's going to last a while. You know, the cases are going up to thousands. Everybody's freaking out like, okay, we'll be in this for a while, right? And then finally, government is coming out with some, you know, plans to help people survive this, which helped a lot. You kind of go, all right, okay, let's go. You know, we're going to get through this. And you were talking about something before. You were saying how you were dealing with it. And it's really interesting because, so there's two sides to this. One side for me, I was used to have, you know, every night of the week in my studio, I was surrounded by, you know, at minimum 100 people or more. You know, it was surrounded by, let's say, a couple hundred people, right? Every night of the week we had, I don't know, maybe, you know, 400 or 500 students hitting our studio, coming to our studio on any given week, right? So now it's empty, it's eerie, you know. I live by myself. It was so weird to be used to be surrounded by people, and then all of a sudden you're like,
I can hear my thoughts.
There's so much silence. You know, it was so weird. And then at the same time, I'm also an introvert, which is weird because I can teach to 1,000 people and have the best time. But at the same time, I really like my peace too. And I like my alone time. So the fact that we weren't going crazy, working like crazy, like I was actually working 5 days a week during the lockdowns, which was less than usual. And you know, I didn't have dance events, we didn't have festivals, we did all these things that normally were like, oh, it was so relaxing. And I was like, oh my God. And then for me, like I had so much time to take care of myself. And I like, it was such, I was so like, there was a part of me that, you know, in the beginning was freaking out, like, how are we going to survive this? But then when the help came, the financial help came to, you know, when we were able to reduce our rent and we got these grants from the government that we had applied for in order to help survive our business. And we got, you know, we had the job keeper and all those things. I was able to relax and be like, okay, we're going to be okay. And then just be like, wow, is this what normal life feels like when you're working 5 days a week and you just, you know, working 8-hour days rather than 10 to 12 to 14. And yeah, so that was great. I was like,
I do love that the tonality changes as well. You just go,
yes.
well, which is great because you also, side story is that you also were studying, I know when you sold your business, you were studying to be a Audible reader.
Voiceover artist.
Voiceover artist.
That's correct. Yeah. I did a voiceover course.
So is that your voice?
That was my voiceover course. No, I'm just kidding. Chapter 1. Read my audiobooks. Yeah, I did that. Yeah. So I retired in
COVID.
Yeah, COVID.
Started to experience a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah. Ish, kind of, not really, but yeah.
And then come out of COVID, and it was literally like, all right,
come out of COVID,
we're going to double the parties. Let's go.
Oh yeah, it just went right back to the old life, which was crazy. In a sense, like we're very lucky for that because it meant that, you know, Australia was doing well and Sydney was doing well as a city and as a country when it comes to COVID, which is, you know, obviously I'm super, super, super grateful for. I was back to the grind, man, and back to, just now it was time to rebuild, and we had to rebuild, but it was great because people were really keen to come back and do activities again, which is great. Yeah. Hey, thanks so much for joining the episode of Table Talk today. We hope you found some helpful tips and inspiration in staying healthy and fit, even with a busy schedule. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast. Stay tuned for our next conversation. Until then,
Keep prioritizing yourself, your health, your fitness, and we'll see you on the next table